Belgium. 10 January 1945. Dear Mama, Daddy, Martha, and Catherine. Just a few lines to let you know I am well and alright. Feeling fine and have no complaints. Even received a package from Catherine today containing this paper. Things here are progressing very well, I think. Or at least that is the way it seems to me. I guess you are keeping up with it in the paper. I am sending you a clipping from our paper about our division. Twice we have bucked up against the Adolf Hitler SS division. And twice we have given them a bad licking. They are supposed to be Germany's best, so naturally they don't like us. Sally is a German woman propaganda broadcaster that talks over the radio every night in English. We are all very proud of our division and rate ourselves second to no one. Of course, I think my company is the best in the division. There is still a lot of snow and it snows some every day. It must be about 20 inches deep and deeper in places. It is a dry snow, but it is still cold as the ground is well frozen. Well, I don't know anything else to say, so I will close for this time. Love to all.
Hubert.
Belgium. 12 January 1945. Dear everybody at home. Just a few lines to let you know I am well and alright. Still a lot of snow, but we managed to keep warm and have plenty of hot food. Haven't much time, so won't attempt to write a letter. Just wanted to say hello and hope all of you are well. I haven't had a letter from home in several days, but I'm sure some will come through in a few days. You know, other things have higher priorities at time. So with lots of love and thoughts of all of you.
Hubert.
January 15th, at 0815 hours, the 3rd Battalion, 120th Infantry Battalion, 30th Infantry Division, had attacked again, and in the afternoon, only small, costly progress had been made. Help was requested. In the command post of the 2nd Battalion, 120th Infantry Battalion.
Now there are panels pointing towards Hill 551 all along the main roads now to focus people on this new initiative, the information panels. But the locals, of course, have no idea what is meant by Hill 551 because they know it as Hauts-Sart.
Say it. Pronounce it for me.
Hauts-Sart.
Hauts-Sart?
Yeah.
Plans had been made to take the high ground called Wolfsbusch, 300 yards south of Thurmont, and across the Amblev River. Colonel Perdue had divided Hill 551 into two areas. The southern portion was to be the 3rd Battalion objective, the north half the 2nd Battalion's. The 2nd Battalion returned to the initial road junction where it had detrucked. From a line of departure there, attacked, with G and F companies in the lead. The 3rd Battalion pushed with renewed effort at the same time. Light tanks could have speeded the taking of the objective, and continuous effort was made to get them on the high ground. The steep slope was covered with more than 2 feet of snow, however, and the tanks bogged down again and again. Late in the morning, L Company had run into a strong point. A platoon, led by Sergeant Monty W. Keener, was pinned down from a machine gun whose location was impossible to discern. The men tried to move forward. A squad leader jumped up aggressively and ran a few yards, when a sputtering from a hidden gun caused him to fall dead in the snow. Another man had already started forward and had gone about 20 yards when the fire cut him dead too. Before it could be knocked out, so the platoon could advance, Keener knew that the emplacement had to be found. Decisively, he jumped up to make a rush. As he ran, he surveyed hastily the terrain. When the bullets snapped around him, he lunged toward where he thought they had originated. He had gone 25 yards when he saw the enemy grouped around the death-dealing weapon. He fell to his knee and fired his BAR into the nest. His men were moving when they discovered Keener had fallen forward on his face. Lieutenant William H. Calloway had brought his own platoon up on the right of Keener's. Having seen Keener, and taking in the situation at a glance, he organized his own platoon for a flanking raid on the nest. Grabbing what he could of the German position, he assaulted the emplacement and destroyed it, capturing the entire surviving machine gun crew and capturing 5 more Germans defending the position. Continuing to lead the 2 platoons, Calloway dispersed his men in a wooded area near the crest of Hauts-Sart. Though L Company was trying to move forward, he knew that if his men left their positions, the infiltrating enemy who was sniping at them and the enemy who was delivering the flanking fire pinning down L Company would gain an advantage and the hill would have to be taken again. He realized that while his men held the ground, someone would have to annihilate the enemy positions. Still struggling uphill, the tanks were gaining the high ground and open field away from Lieutenant Calloway. Though 1 man had been killed and another wounded taking the exposed shortcut, he dashed across a field and down a path to meet the tanks and bring them forward. He led them up the hill 600 yards to a point close to German strong points. Once the tanks had gained vantage points near the crest of the hill, the Germans were, after a stiff fight, beaten. Lieutenant Calloway used a tank to evacuate 9 wounded men of his platoon. He had had a full day. By night, Hill 551 had fallen into the hands of the American troops. 87 prisoners of war were taken, although most of the German paratroopers fought ferociously, and many got killed. 3 consecutive days of fighting had brought a long casualty list for the 120th Infantry Regiment. General Hobbs, the division commander, entered the 3rd Battalion's command post on the day after the fight. Hill 551 was as hard a battle as was fought in this war. Everyone agreed on that.
Alors il y avait moins d'arbres sur le sommet. Donc,
And recently there were panels installed with the cooperation of the local community to explain the people who visit this area often a little bit more about the history that took place here. So you get a nice walk and a history lesson at the same time. And the village kind of financed the whole project, but it was the contents were created by Ludwig. He offered the history and the community paid for the placement and the manufacture of the panels.
Ils ont pris en charge tout le financement du monument et des panneaux, donc ça a coûté 10 000 €.
And now walking here, how is it for you as an experience to kind of tread into the footsteps of your father?
I haven't let it hit me yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll break down. I don't know. He walked away from it, so it's not like it would be someone died on this.
Yeah, of
J'ai
course.
hésité cette année. Donc ici simplement pour vous montrer, place cette
You get the vantage point here on this hill is where you have what's called the Wolf's Bush Hill in front of us here, which doesn't have like a number in hill like Hill 551 has, but this was also a very important hill protecting the Amblev Valley, which eventually leads into St. Vith further on, which was the objective of the whole push through this area, was to recapture St. Vith. So they started off from the road from Malmedy to Bonnier, then cut south through cutting off this road, going through the fields and into the woods, and then basically losing a lot of manpower getting up the hill here at Bonnier, setting up a defense line. There's another report from the 526th Armored Infantry. Yeah. Armored Infantry that supported the 120th during this attack, saying that they lost an enormous amount of manpower trying to take the hill initially, due to mines and everything.
en attaquant au Hir quelques jours avant le 120e. Ils ont perdu au final, les Américains ont perdu énormément de soldats sur cette colline-là aussi. 526. toujours maintenant, ils ne comprennent pas. Non, c'était pas miné. Non. Ce qui était miné, c'était le...
Like up here. Yeah, and also during the attack that came from Malmedy to take the initial
Ça, c'est île.
defense line.
Ici,
Yeah.
j'avais 541. Et quand ils sont arrivés, à partir d'ici, j'ai parlé avec beaucoup de monde.
He's spoken with a lot of people who did like metal detecting as a hobby in this area, and for 15 years, they brought out an enormous amount of material out of this with machine guns, rifles, all sorts of weaponry, and even until recently, people find ammunition and things.
Ouais, mais je fais avec un ami qui lui est tout en ordre. Donc tu vois, si j'ai fait, tu peux expliquer que
About a month and a half ago, they were doing some metal detecting in the center of the village, and on an embankment they found a certain place 93 ejected rifle casings from an M1 Garand rifle. So they know that at that particular spot there was a soldier for a certain amount of time expending ammunition.
Il y a une petite MK2 cachée derrière le piquet, donc je connais quelqu'un qui a fait de la détection.
Ah, so there's a live grenade hidden away behind the post here that somebody found and they buried it down deep.
Alors, pour moi, les deux zones de fonction sont américaines. On n'est pas totalement certain pour celle-ci ici au-dessus. On sait que l'autre oui. Mais quand je parle avec des spécialistes allemands, apparemment ils n'avaient pas tellement de foxholes comme ça individuels. Ils faisaient plutôt des gros trous où ils savaient se mettre à 4 dedans pour couvrir 360 degrés. Et ils n'avaient pas des foxholes individuels comme ça.
This is a series of American dog foxholes.
Pour les Américains avant d'avancer le lendemain. Ça a été fait à mon avis le 15 au soir.
Should I not be stepping in this?
I think you have all right to do that because you have a personal connection with those who used it and those who dug these.
Kind of puts you in connection with it though.
Par hasard, en me promenant ici à 50-60 mètres, il y a 4.
So we're here in the actual position where L Company had spent the night, and where a couple yards down in the forest he found 4 foxholes close together, probably an outpost to protect the downward slope.
C'est ça qu'on lit vraiment dans les rapports, ils sont à 300 mètres.
Yeah, so the night position was really within reach of the German positions on the summit there. On the night of the 14th, this is where they spent the night.
Là, dans la forêt. La neige.
Yeah, it's all covered in deep snow. And, yeah. So the soldier that whose grave he's adopted in Henri Chapelle was really here alongside your dad with the group and spent his last night alive here before he was killed the next day during the attack. This is part of a bazooka rocket. This is some of the propellant in here. This is some of the explosives in here. This is some of the propellant in here. This is some of the explosives.
German or American?
That's American.
So time and again you find things.
Je vais venir le rechercher, je vais le laisser là, je vais venir le rechercher. Je vais faire des photos, je vais le questionner pour ne pas ramener ça à la maison si c'est... Donc Thirimont est là.
From here they had, you see the very open view they had, almost similar to what it was because they cut down part of the forest. And when you look at the vehicles moving on the road down there, you understand when first troops arrived from Wens moving up to this position that they could really pinpoint them from up here and get the drop on them, so to speak.
Et ils vont tirer avec les MG directement sur les soldats qui sont sur la route là-bas. Et donc la mitrailleuse allemande qui a une portée de tir de 6 km.
Now you understand why for 3 days they were able to really stop the advance of the US troops going through here. C'était des parachutistes mais ils n'ont pas sauté.
Non,
hein? No. At this stage of the war, there was an airborne operation on the Hauts-Sart where they misdropped a lot of paratroopers, but yeah, the Schlosser operation. But those weren't really the troops that ended up here. These were paratroopers by training, but they came in on vehicles and on foot. So the massacre field of Bonnier is just behind the fir trees in the distance, where you see that farm just beyond that. So a gentleman that lives 4 houses from him, who's 90 years old, remembers in December when the 1st SS Panzer Division came through, the Piper unit that was responsible for the massacre. They were already firing from that position to the road from Ligneville, where the 7th Armored was sending units through onto St. Vith. So from that point, they were already firing onto the road over there.
Belgium, 28 January 1945. Dear Mama, Daddy, Martha, and Catherine. Today is Sunday and we are back for a brief rest. At least we are in a house with a fire and a warm place to sleep. Our food is very good and I eat twice as much as I ever did before. I weighed the other day in Paris and weigh more than I ever have. 155 pounds. I feel good all the time and with all the exposure I have not had a cold or sore throat yet. I have just returned from a well-earned trip to Paris which I enjoyed and can't forget. From snowy Foxhole to gay Paris. My clothes are ample for keeping me warm. Combat pants. Wool-lined canvas. And aviator's boots. Fur-lined. Plus a heavy field jacket with a rabbit's fur vest. Of course all of this is not according to regulation but I have acquired it anyhow. I received your letter of 1845 today along with several others and was very glad to hear from you. Hope this finds you well and all right. I will write you again in a few days.
Love, Hubert.
The Distinguished Service Cross is the second highest military decoration that can be awarded to a member of the United States Army. It is awarded for extraordinary heroism.
First Lieutenant William H. Callaway, while serving in the Army of the United States, distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against the enemy. On the 15th of January 1945, during an attack on enemy positions in Belgium, Lieutenant Callaway directed the fire of his platoon on an enemy machine gun, which had pinned down an adjacent platoon. Then, braving the intense fire, he succeeded in bringing his platoon back to his own unit, and directed the entire group on an assault upon the enemy. Lieutenant Callaway single-handedly captured 8 prisoners and so inspired his platoon that they overran the enemy position. When the attack subsided due to heavy enemy resistance, Lieutenant Callaway secured tanks and so accurately directed their fire upon the enemy that the company was able to advance and take its final objective. The extraordinary heroism and courageous actions of Lieutenant Callaway reflect great credit upon himself and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service.